A sleeping chicken. If you see a chicken like sleeping during the daytime, that's really, really unusual chicken behavior. Yeah, you'd be almost better off just booby trapping like a chicken coop. Like have a chicken coop, play some audio with like chicken sounds, and when they stick a hand in, anyway, this is probably going to get me demonetized. But you see where I'm going with this, right? Those Brahma chickens are big. Okay, so we're at about 28 minutes. All right, we have two choices. I don't know if we do a poll real quick. I downloaded Lost Ark, so we could switch gears and play some Lost Ark, or I could react to what happened to FPS Russia. It's up to y'all. Can I do a? Let me see if I can. Can I do a poll? Chat settings. No. Channel points. Explosives in eggs and reinsert. That's such a bad idea. Oh god. Yeah, I'm trying already not to make things too much. Okay, man. Does everyone know about FPS Russia? Does everyone know about the saga of FPS Russia? No. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Let's see if we can just run through this.
FPS Russia ended up being...
Okay, by the way, guys, let's get you guys the link to this real quick. This is by Sunnyv2, who actually has said he is happy to be the subject of React videos so long as we properly credit him. Yep, shoots guns, bad accent, FPS Kyle. So let's see.
Even more insane than anyone ever expected. Sure, blowing stuff up with tanks, guns, and rocket launchers on the daily had already set the bar of insanity higher than any other YouTuber. However, this was only the beginning of what would become FPS Russia's incredibly turbulent life. One of the key people in the FPS Russia YouTube team was...
Yeah, this is bananas. So for those of you that don't know, yeah, FPS Russia in the early 2000s, like pre-2010, FPS Russia was one of the iconic early YouTubers. And he was a guy from Georgia who had actually been originally a Call of Duty pre-streamer, a proto-streamer, right? He was a Call of Duty content creator who would record gameplay videos. And he was eventually... you know, would sometimes adopt a Russian accent, but he was also a gun enthusiast. So he made a separate gun channel that was dedicated just to shooting increasingly crazy guns at things.
Was murdered. The channel was slowly shut down following a battle with the government, and to add a cherry on top of the cake, FPS Russia was then sent to prison for a variety of different reasons, in the process losing his $400,000 gun collection.
No, he's alive.
It's probably safe to say that in the beginning, Kyle Myers, the creator of FPS Russia, wouldn't have expected any of this. He wouldn't have expected that his channel would become the 9th most subscribed on all of YouTube in late 2012, and definitely wouldn't have expected that it would eventually land him in prison.
Yeah, this is bananas. Yeah, I've heard of Painkiller already. Yeah, I mean, I would love to come on, but I feel like I'm not goofy enough for them. Plus, their podcast like 4 hours long, dude. I would need to caffeinate so hard for a 4-hour podcast.
So how did he fall into such an unbelievable position?
Maybe I should see if he wants to come on mine.
Well, the Russian gun shooting gimmick was actually started for somewhat of a hilarious reason. Kyle Myers, the creator of FPS Russia, had been uploading Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 videos, pretending to be a Russian man by the name of Dmitry Potapov, at a time when, for some reason, badass Russians were just a prominent part of popular culture.
Hello, my name is Dmitry Potapov.
Okay, I love this stereotype because boy howdy has it gotten turned on its head. And you know, the truth is that the like badass Russian has been sort of stuck in popular culture for a while. The Russian, you look at like the Wagner group, right? Who, when they started out, were these like badass contract soldiers in all of Russia's conflicts in Syria and the DRC and Afghanistan. And instead, what you now have, the reality is they've largely, the good ones have gotten killed or left or haven't been paid. And then they're just like drunk motorcycle biker thugs now at this point. There's very few like really capable soldiers. Similarly, you have Russian Spetsnaz and VDV guys in Syria who you're just like, wow, they're so badass. But turns out a lot of it's propaganda. A lot of these guys, Russian military is just dirt poor conscripts that have resorted to stealing chickens.
And,
right, now it's just a bad Ukrainian dude, just drunk and just stealing Russian tractors with a tank.
Making gameplay commentaries for a very short time, but happily everyone seems to love my video. I have 6,000 subscribers.
I love this. This is the peak YouTube settings, by the way, of this era, right? Just I mean, look at this.
Despite completely faking the Russian element,
I also just love this ultra stable shooting where it's just like, yes, you're gonna fire an assault rifle and the sight picture won't move at all. It's just gonna be like this. It's gonna vibrate slightly.
Element of his persona, there was another part of his act that was completely and utterly real: his love for guns. Kyle had been living on a farm in the US state of Georgia, on which he owned a grand total of 53 guns, and after feeling as—
yeah, guys, if there's one thing you didn't know about the United States of America, is that there's a lot of guns. I think there's like one gun for every like 2 people, at least in some states, at least in my former home state of Pennsylvania. And that's because, not because everyone owns a gun, but because there's a lot of people own guns, but there's a tiny minority that own a tremendous number of guns. You know, there's a reason. If you're a hobbyist shooter, right, there's a reason to you know, have a shotgun for your I don't know, goose hunting, and a deer rifle and a pistol, right? Or if you're some sort of 3-gun competitive shooter, right? There's reasons to have this many firearms. But that number starts to drop off around 3. Once you get past 3, it's hard to justify it as anything other than a collector. And don't get me wrong, there's some weapons that are actually profitable. I bought a US copy of a Galil, the Israeli assault rifle, at one point, for like $600 cash, no kidding, out of the back of somebody's trunk in like a Walmart. I made him give me my driver's license, and I actually called the sheriff and was just like, hey, I just need you to verify this is like not a criminal. But when I sold it 3 years later, it was $1,100. So, you know, they can be an investment if properly maintained, which is kind of weird.
As though Call of Duty did a poor job of
buy a goose hat. Why are people so into goose?
Of accurately depicting how these firearms worked in real life, he'd make it his mission to display the difference between guns in gaming and guns in real life. In an interview from November 2010, Kyle would state, "There are just so many unrealistic things in the Call of Duty games that I wanted to see if any..."
Listen, man, I already have 3 birds. I think my wife would tolerate no more. Actually, and I hate geese. Like, geese are the rats of the sky. They're just aggressive. They poop a lot. There's nothing good about them.
Of them could actually be done in real life. FPS Russia would create a real-life version of the explosive RCXD car from Black Ops, while also test-firing many other guns from Call of Duty, such as the MP5, Tommy gun, and AUG assault rifle, all of which being done over the top of his fake Russian accent that was being further popularized, at least in part, by Nikolai from Black Ops Zombies.
Black Ops Zombies. Nikolai, Nikolai.
At around the same time. These videos were uploaded and interwoven with his Call of Duty gameplays, but with his real-life gun videos gaining more than 80,000 views a video, and his Call of Duty videos gaining between 20,000 and 40,000 views a video, it makes sense as to why FPS Russia would then discontinue the Call of Duty.
Damn, this is just crazy. I mean, it's crazy, one, to see what the numbers were back in YouTube's early days. It's crazy.
Gameplay, and start doing nothing besides shooting different guns.
Canadian geese are scary.
For the viewers of his YouTube channel.
Hello my friends, this is FPS Russia again. In the last video, everyone wanted to see F2000 kill Justin Bieber, but many people wanted to see 50 caliber.
Gotta say, I get hating on Justin Bieber is cool, but can you see how it may be seen as pretty creepy to shoot Justin Bieber in effigy every day on a channel? That's pretty creepy. I'm just gonna point it out there. It's really pretty weird. Like, I would be weirded out if there was a gun channel that was just like, hey guys, welcome to Tim's Guns, and today we're gonna shoot this picture of Paul. He really annoys me, so let's shoot him. I'd be like, oh, is this like a threat? Like, this may legally qualify as a threat.
Desert Eagle.
Only a few weeks after making the switch to exclusively posting real-life content, FPS Russia began to grow unbelievably quickly. His 50,000 subscribers turned into 250,000 after...
I mean, I get the real person target, right? The Macaulay Culkin and the weird guy with the mustache, but like, I think that's different because they aren't named people, and they are... That's like an iconic target. It's been around for probably 15 years or longer.
Only 4 months, which then turned into 1 million subscribers only 4 months after that. His popularity gave him the opportunity to showcase bigger and better weapons, which then helped his channel to grow even more, creating a cycle in short.
Yeah, I think all firearms are not created equal. In some countries, right, you're gonna have a lot of firearms, but it's gonna be like countries with a robust hunting culture. So it'll be 99% like the family hunting rifle or the family shotgun, right? You could be like, oh, everyone hunts, everyone has a shotgun and a hunting rifle. You know, Canada's probably like that, I imagine. But in the US, only in the US do you have these sort of military grade weapons commercially available, especially because legally in most states, you can't hunt with an AR-15. And even if you could, an AR-15 is not the right tool to hunt almost anything.
Ensuring that the channel would seemingly thrive forever. In December 2012, only 2 years after he began posting IRL content, FPS Russia would peak.
I mean, look at what's on here. Ray William Johnson, I don't even know who that is. No idea what this is. Smosh, don't know what that is. Machinima, which is the gaming channel. Jenna Marbles, does she even still make content? To her credit, she sustained this for a long time. Fred Didai, don't know who that is. Rihanna's music videos. Damn, Rihanna was huge back in the day. College Humor, and there he is, PewDiePie.
As YouTube's 9th most subscribed channel with a little over 3 million followers. However, 2 months after achieving such a milestone, a tragic event occurred that would completely and utterly derail the future and success of the FPS Russia channel. In order to source all the guns used in the FPS Russia videos, someone in the group needed to have a federal firearms license. This very specific license, which allowed the individual who held it to engage in business relating to the manufacture of ammunition or firearms, was held by a man named Keith Ratliff.
In this case, I don't think he's manufacturing firearms. I think it's not the part that he's it's this other part, right? It's the interstate or intrastate sale of firearms. This allows you to buy and sell guns. And this is probably important for the channel because yes, FPS, you know, Kyle had a lot of firearms, it's true, but even if you own 50 firearms, not all of them are going to be fun channel firearms. And because firearms have a really, really, really high resale value, they retain their value very, very well. You could buy it and almost like resell it for what you paid for it. You'll only pay the transaction costs. So if your goal is to make a video in which, say, you shoot a 240 Bravo, right? You could spend I think it's probably $25,000 to $50,000 for a 240 Bravo, but then if you film your video, you turn around and you resell it for that same $50,000, all you've paid are the transaction fees. And if you have someone who already has an FFL, then you don't even have to pay the FFL transaction fees on your end. It's literally just, it will cost you, you know, $1,000, let's say, probably less than your ammunition expenses to film and record and upload this video.
A man named Keith Ratliff. Being the owner of the team's federal firearms license, the co-founder of FPS Russia, a gun store owner, and a part owner in a custom firearms business named FPS Industries, Keith Ratliff was integral for the channel to have a constant flow of new and novel weapons. So when he was found dead with a bullet in the back of his head on the 3rd of January 2013, only 2 weeks after FPS Russia became one of the most subscribed channels on all of YouTube, it's really no surprise that everything plunged into a state of chaos. Not only had FPS Russia's life flipped upside down overnight following the murder of a friend who regularly appeared in the videos, but he had also—
That's crazy. It's an execution style murder. Was anything taken from the facility? This is like a weird mystery.
Was the individual responsible for sourcing the channel's firearms. Following Keith Ratliff's death, the FPS Russia channel would go completely silent, presumably to mourn the death of their team member and to figure out how they would continue to source new guns for the channel. FPS Russia wouldn't return for another 2 months, but with the passing of time, he stated that he was ready to get back into making content.
And we're back in action. So as many of you know, we lost a member of the team about a month ago, but I felt like it was time to get back into the swing of things, get back to the firearms, and most importantly, get back to entertaining you guys.
However, the United States government seemed to have a different idea. Only a month after he returned to YouTube, his house and his dad's farm on which he filmed many of his videos would be raided by 40 agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, stating that he had been using potentially illegal explosives to earn money through YouTube.
Okay, justification for the raid. The claim that was Myers using explosives and getting paid for it via YouTube. Has used tannerite. It's legal. Manufacturing explosives for business purposes are legal without a federal license. Interesting. So, I don't know if they shot his dogs, actually. Yeah. It's a little tough, man. Blowing things up with tannerite, going after it. So the ATF kind of has a history of doing these things, of having, of deciding to go after someone for fairly routine purposes. And it's, you know, for tiny violations. If they decide, for example, the Waco siege was the ATF who decided that there was a probability or a possibility that the individuals inside, while they legally owned all the firearms, they had legally purchased them, they thought that there was a chance they had also bought like material that could, in theory, modify some of the firearms to be used illegally. There was no proof that they had. It wasn't illegal to buy that stuff, and it wasn't illegal to buy machine tools. It was just they didn't see or confirm that any weapons had been re-engineered. It was just their sort of suspicion that was happening, and they used that as justification for the raid. Now, if you have an FFL, if you have a federal firearms license, you agree the ATF can show up at your home for any reason. Any reason at all. They don't need a reason. And I think that's actually a fair policy. So, you know, the manufacture of explosives for business purposes is illegal without a federal license. And again, is it a business purpose to film a video? And if so, what does that licensing requirement look like to use explosives? When you think about every movie set you've ever seen has used explosives. So it's tough to say, right? It's something that would probably be best settled by a lawyer. And again, if the ATF wanted to do that, they probably wouldn't need to raid his home. They would probably just need to, I don't know, withdraw his license and be like, hey man, we saw you use tannerite for this purpose, we think it's a business, etc.
The county sheriff stated that these raids were also in connection to the suspicious death of his former business partner, as the murder was still unsolved almost 3 months after having occurred. The 40 agents who raided FPS Russia's house on that day left empty-handed. He had nothing illegal to hide. However, this wouldn't be the last raid of FPS Russia's house, and following the first raid and unsolved death of his former business partner, the government became more scrutinous, imposing what he considered to be unfair regulations on his channel.
I've always had like rules and regulations imposed on me that no other like gun YouTube channel had imposed on them. I've been warned by like federal agencies and like district attorneys and stuff that like, don't do this or we'll come and get you.
FPS Russia was now fully aware.
Yeah, this is sort of how this works, unfortunately. This is like the Al Capone tax evasion problem, is that when you rise onto someone's radar, especially law enforcement's radar, it's hard to get off of it, unfortunately. And that is a real problem. And it can result in little fiefdoms and this sort of thing. But it can also be tremendously beneficial, right? Again, the Al Capone tax evasion example, where, you know, it was believed, right? It was believed to almost a certainty that Al Capone was a mob boss, but it was so hard to get him, they just had to target him for doing something illegal. And it took a long time to get him finally on tax evasion. And this is pretty common. That's why they have ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is involved in a lot of FBI and ATF raids. It's because if they encounter, you know, like known gang members, known drug dealers, known weapon smugglers, and they're not able to get them dead to rights on a charge, they can say, hey, we can't charge you, but we can deport you. And that's what ICE is here for. So it's an interesting, it can be in the hands of someone with a strong ethical character. It can be a great tool for law enforcement to ensure public safety. But in the hands of someone who is more petty, it can be problematic. And the fact is that when his business partner died, he probably should have thought to like take it easy, which he did for several months. But like after the ATF shows up, he really should have thought hard about what he was doing.
That the government had a close eye on his YouTube channel, so possibly fearing further legal ramifications. In the same month that his house had been raided and a month after Ratliff's death, FPS Russia would delete 33 million views worth of videos from his channel, then go on yet another hiatus. However, this break would last for not 1, 2, or 3 months as it had previously, but rather he would go completely silent on all social media for 9 whole months.
And it has been a very long time since we've uploaded the video. And it's been a while since I've posted on social media as well, and I wanted to first of all explain that I've been through so many times where I've been trying to set up production days, working with film crews, working with high-speed stuff, and everything fell through.
With 9 months being the equivalent to about 9 years in YouTube time, upon returning from his hiatus, the channel had unsurprisingly slowed.
Okay, I don't think this is fair, right? Because you can't sit there and look at a video how it performs after 11 months from its upload to how it performs within 2 months of uploading. Yeah, I get it. Plus, like, this seems within the normal swing.
Quite dramatically. His subscriber growth had dropped from 200,000 a month to between 50 and 100,000 per month, while his viewership dropped from approximately 15 million per month to around 7 million per month. The monthly viewership and subscriber drop of around 50% was actually somewhat mild, considering he took close to a whole year off. However, a drop in his monthly view and subscriber count wasn't the only YouTube-related problem that FPS Russia had been facing.
Overhead's crazy, for one thing. Like the overhead for making one of the videos, and now you
damn Ice Poseidon's on PKA. Okay, weird.
YouTube monetization, demonetization, that makes it real hard.
Throughout 2015,
yeah, this is a good point. If you get demonetized, then you can't like do. Then you're just a hobbyist at that point, or you are guys like Garantham who has specific sponsors of every video, or Brennan Herrera.
2016, YouTube monetization rules were changing, and from what FPS Russia said in the previously shown clip, the changes were clearly affecting his
FPS Russia and Dan Bilzerian. Oh my God, this really is filmed in 2016. This was when people thought Dan Bilzerian was cool.
Channel, making a profitable production harder and harder to produce. Now, there's no hard evidence for this, but FPS Russia may have also been growing tired of the same old video format. Putting on a Russian accent, introducing a gun, saying that the target is gonna have a bad day, then blowing it up over and over again must have been getting monotonous as his channel was approaching 5 years of age. This might explain as to why the quantity of uploads declined dramatically.
Yeah, I would be really curious to know the finances of this channel as it went on, because it sounds very, very, very tedious, and it sounds sort of like, yeah, it would get really tiresome. I'd be curious to know what he would have liked to have done instead.
2015, he would upload,
but I think he deserves
a total of only 9 videos.
Some credit for his ability to pivot, right? He's now an essential member of the PKA podcast, which is honestly one of the most prolific and probably best podcasts in the gaming world, right? And it's been going on for like a decade now.
Videos equaling less than 1 per month, but while the video uploads were decreasing, the gun collection definitely wasn't. And the fact that FPS Russia had so many firearms registered, holding the highest license available, meant that any government agency could turn up at his house at any time and search his things for even the most minor of suspicions.
Because of the types of firearms that I owned, we're able to search my house regardless.
You didn't have a regular license, you had a super license.
No, yeah, I had the highest level of licensing for everything. You're kind of on a database of like, oh, this guy has this, they have the right to come in.
FPS Russia,
right, like we talked about, you sign up, you don't have the like come back with a warrant, right? Like when you give them that FFL, you give them the right. You basically sign your own warrant.
Had been seen by police wearing a pair of shorts, which apparently gave them authority to search his house as they had 4 years previously.
They wrote a warrant that said they were able to search my home due to the fact that I was wearing shorts.
This time, however, the feds would not leave empty-handed.
Okay, I actually looked into this. Okay, the wearing shorts thing, basically they thought that Kyle was purchasing illegal drugs. and they had probably had it out for him for a while. I think he was probably suspect number one in his business partner's death. I think that's really common, honestly, in the case of like sort of motive unclear murders. Spouse, business partner. Think that's it, man. Spouse, business partner. So the reason they wanted him wearing shorts is because they were like, hey, it indicated that he was out for a quick trip and that he was going back. And they were like, well, you're out for a quick trip and you're going right back. That implies that you are just like running out to buy. I think their argument was that he was running out to his dealer, right? Because you would wear proper clothes when you were going out anywhere else.
And rather found a small amount of hash, ultimately resulting in a prosecution, as owning illegal drugs while also owning a firearm is a federal offense in the USA. However, it got worse. Since he had shared the drugs with his girlfriend at the time, he was somewhat ridiculously charged with the intention to distribute.
Sharing marijuana with a second party is distribution by the law.
The severity of
that sort of like technicality stuff is bunk. They really just wanted, so they may have just wanted straight Kyle's gun collection. They may have just been like, we don't want Kyle to have firearms because we really think he, I guess, committed this murder or whatever. Or they may literally have just been feeling like being dicks and are just like, oh, this dude is a little too public. He's playing fast and loose. He's definitely using tannerite for his business.
Of the charge also meant that the government was able to confiscate FPS Russia's $400,000 firearm collection consisting of over 50 guns.
200K? Like, you get more than that in guns.
Yeah, closer to 400.
That's so crazy.
They took
why would you own $400,000 worth of guns? What are you going to do with them? It's a liability, as he sees, right? It's like, if it was money, the ATF can't seize it without a little bit more of a legal process.
$100,000 worth of guns?
After almost 2 years of back and forth legal discussion, FPS Russia was sentenced to 56 days in federal prison with a $7,500 fine and 2 years probation upon.
Right. That's so funny that it was just like nothing.
Release. He would be released from prison in October 2019. However, in the process, he lost his gun collection, a bit of his dignity, and as comical as it sounds, his Russian accent.
And when you're a convicted felon, you can't just not own a firearm. You cannot be in possession of a firearm, which means you can't hold your dad's gun. You can't hold your girlfriend's handgun. You probably shouldn't even have them in the house.
The fact that FPS Russia was on probation for 2 years meant he wasn't allowed access to any type of...
No, he's never again in his life allowed access to a firearm. Once you're convicted of a felony, felon in possession. And he's got to know better than to play those games again.
Firearm.
Obviously, felons aren't allowed firearms, but people who are on probation aren't allowed, like, anything. Like, I can't even have, like, pepper spray.
And therefore...
Which is kind of dark if you think about it, because if you believe someone murdered your friend in cold blood, then you probably want to have some form of protection for yourself. And maybe that was the motive for the $400,000 worth of guns, some sort of process, some sort of thinking that, hey, this thing that happened to my friend, like is scary and it's unsolved. The person's out there. And so like, I'm going to protect myself the only way I know how, with a lot of guns.
Or there was no way for the FPS Russia videos to continue legally.
Yeah, I'm a felon. I can't get guns until
Ever again?
Yeah, until they pass some sort of law.
Okay.
Eventually, I think eventually, like that'll come full circle. But who knows? Or maybe some state will refuse to observe federal law, or I might just go to another country. Like I'm willing to do any of the three.
There are very few countries that are as liberal about firearms as the old USA.
Kyle Myers has impressively...
And a lot of states won't want a resident visa if you have a felony conviction in your other country.
Maintain his success on YouTube as a host of the incredibly popular PKA or Painkiller Already podcast. However, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for everyone's favorite Russian, Dmitry Potapov. FPS Russia's final video is uploaded to the channel on the 17th of April 2016, and as mentioned, unless there's a change to laws surrounding gun ownership for felons, or he decides to move to another country, it's unlikely that this will change anytime soon.
Yeah, guys. I mean, yeah, you just feel bad. I mean, that's a tough break for someone like him. You know, do I think they absolutely tried to get him on a technicality, right? They functionally took his entire business by seizing his weapons, by giving him a felony conviction for something really, really petty, that I could tell you with almost certainty. I'm not going to say most, I'm going to say probably a third of firearms users have violated that in some way. Yeah. So all that to say, guys, gotta just feel bad for FPS Kyle, man. But you know what? It's tough to say that he is doing poorly, right? He's the co-host of an incredibly popular podcast. He is not in prison, which is more than a lot of people with drug convictions can say, and more than a lot of people with federal firearms convictions can say. Ultimately, he's alive, right? Unlike his buddy. And, you know, he's also apparently gotten super yoked, just like ridiculously, wildly yoked. I'm going to just mute this real quick. Yeah, apparently insanely ripped. So, you know, good on Kyle for that. I killed, I know, 1, 2, 3 for champions. I can't believe it's right.